If he loses, she burns. It is Paris of 1386. Banners ripple, armor gleams. A knight enters the arena under the gaze of nobles and king, not to win glory, but to decide truth. A woman has accused a man of rape. The court does not investigate evidence or testimony. It arms her champion and lets God judge. If he wins, heaven has spoken. She told the truth. If he falls, her accusation is declared false, and she is burned alive as a liar. This was trial by combat. Blood became evidence. Survival became proof. The crowd believed God would choose a side. When we hear medieval justice, we picture chaos, torture chambers, ignorant judges, random cruelty. But that story is wrong. Not because the system was gentler, but because it was colder and more deliberate. Medieval justice wasn't built to discover what happened. It was built to prevent disorder. Truth mattered less than stability. Innocence offered no shield. And without status, allies, or reputation, you were already condemned. A world without police or forensics. In the Middle Ages, there was no modern police force, no detectives, no fingerprints, no forensic science. Most communities were small, tightly connected, and constantly at risk of violence. A single murder could trigger endless blood feuds between families, villages, or clans. The law's main goal was not justice as we understand it. It was stability. A legal system that failed to stop revenge killings was a failed system. So medieval law focused on one thing above all else: ending conflict quickly, even if that meant ignoring the full truth. Justice as a peace agreement. One of the clearest examples of this mindset was vergeld, or compensation. Instead of executing someone for killing another person, the law often required the offender to pay money to the victim's family. The idea was simple: payment replaced vengeance. But this came with a brutal reality. A person's life had a price, and that price depended on status. A noble was worth far more than a peasant, a free man more than a servant. Order was restored not by discovering who was right, but by ensuring everyone accepted the outcome. Justice was a transaction. Peace could be bought, and that meant the wealthy had a huge advantage. Proof without evidence. So how did courts decide guilt when there were no witnesses or physical evidence? They didn't. At least, not in the way we expect. Instead, medieval law relied heavily on reputation. One of the most common legal practices was compurgation, also known as wager of law. The accused would gather a group of people, often 12, who would swear an oath that they believed the accused was telling the truth. These oath helpers did not claim to witness the crime. They simply vouched for the person's character. This created a deeply unequal system. If you were well known, respected, and socially connected, you could survive an accusation. If you were poor, new to town, disliked, or already suspicious, you were in serious trouble. Medieval justice did not ask, "Did you do it?" It asked, "Who will stand with you?" When innocence still wasn't enough. Even when legal reforms arrived, innocence still didn't protect people. Under King Henry II in the 12th century, England introduced more formal procedures. Accusations were now presented by groups of locals who identified suspected criminals. Those suspects were then sent to trial by ordeal, a supposed test of divine judgment. But here's the disturbing part. Even if someone passed the ordeal, they could still be punished. If the community considered them of bad reputation, they could be exiled anyway. You could win your case and still lose your life. In medieval law, innocence did not mean safety. Reputation did. God as judge, trials by ordeal. Trials by ordeal are often mocked as medieval stupidity, but to medieval people, they made sense. God was believed to actively intervene in the world. If humans could not determine the truth, God would reveal it. The ordeal was a ritual, not a random act. Priests blessed the process. There were strict rules. Timing mattered. Community presence mattered. Take the hot water ordeal. The accused plunged their arm into boiling water to retrieve an object. The arm was then wrapped, sealed, and inspected days later. If the wound healed cleanly, God had judged them innocent. But the ordeal did more than seek truth. It created fear, public pressure, psychological collapse. Many people confessed before the ordeal even began. Your body became evidence. Your pain became proof. When the ordeal collapsed, in 1215, the system cracked. The church banned priests from participating in ordeals. No more boiling water, cold rivers, or red-hot iron blessed in God's name. Without priests, ordeals lost their authority. God could no longer be officially summoned into court. But the need for order didn't disappear. Courts still had no forensics, weak policing, and constant fear of revenge. So justice adapted, and not in a gentler direction. Ordeals were replaced by confession-driven trials, pressure, isolation, and legal traps designed to extract agreement. Participation was no longer physical pain in public. It became psychological force behind closed doors. The spectacle faded, but coercion remained. Medieval justice didn't abandon its purpose. It simply changed tools, trading boiling water for words and divine judgment for human control. New proof, new coercion. In England, the jury system expanded. Groups of local men were now responsible for deciding guilt. But juries only worked if defendants agreed to participate. If someone refused to plead, medieval law had a solution: pressing. The accused would be crushed under increasing weights until they entered a plea or died. This was not considered punishment. It was considered a procedural necessity. Consent to justice was no longer voluntary. It was enforced. Unequal mercy. Who could escape? Medieval justice also contained escape routes, but they were unevenly distributed. One was the benefit of clergy. If you could read or convincingly pretend to, you could claim clerical status and be tried in church courts, which often imposed lighter punishments. Education became protection. Another was sanctuary. Churches offered temporary refuge to fugitives, allowing time to negotiate exile or compensation. These were not acts of kindness. They were structural privileges, available mainly to the educated, the connected, and the religious. Mercy itself was unequal. Continental Europe. Manufacturing truth. While England drifted toward juries, much of continental Europe took a darker turn. Courts demanded strict proof, and confession became the gold standard of evidence. But suspects rarely confessed on their own, so the law supplied an answer. Torture wasn't authorized because judges were monsters. It was legalized because the system stalled without admission. Pain became procedure. Confession unlocked verdicts, restored order, and allowed courts to close cases. Whether the words were true mattered less than the fact they existed. Truth was no longer discovered through inquiry. It was manufactured to satisfy legal requirements. The process was horrifying, yes, but also internally coherent. Medieval justice didn't break its own rules. It followed them to their most brutal, inescapable conclusion. Punishment as public theatre. Punishment in the medieval world was never meant to be hidden. Executions, floggings, pillories, and stocks were staged in marketplaces, under daylight, before crowds. This wasn't about correcting the criminal or discovering remorse. It was about imprinting fear and memory. The body became the message. Pain turned into public instruction. By watching someone suffer, the community was reminded of the boundaries of order and the cost of crossing them. Justice didn't work in silence. It worked because it was seen, repeated, and remembered. Spectacle replaced surveillance. When everyone watched punishment unfold, the law didn't need to persuade. It only needed to terrify enough to keep the peace. Conclusion: medieval justice wasn't chaos. It wasn't ignorant, and it wasn't broken. It did exactly what it was meant to do. Its goal wasn't truth, it was control. Stop blood feuds, preserve hierarchy, enforce obedience, maintain order. Innocent, irrelevant, powerful, protected, weak, exposed. Justice didn't fail because it punished the wrong people. It succeeded because it kept society from tearing itself apart. Every ordeal, every confession, every spectacle of pain served a single purpose: stability over fairness, fear over fact. The horror isn't that medieval justice was cruel. The horror is that it worked perfectly for everything except truth. And in that perfection lies its darkest lesson. So, the final question is, if your life depended on medieval proof, reputation, ordeal, jury, confession, or sanctuary, which would you trust?